I was given the name Prepared and Peaceful specifically because that is the thing I see people not exhibiting. And I really, really want to feel that way. Not that my feelings are governing me, but I believe that it's a reflection of what's going on in your life, right? Everybody wants to be prepared for bad things to come, and we don't know what that may be. I think a lot of people have a sense very strongly right now that something bad is inbound. But as I began to pray and listen to the Spirit a little bit about what was the truth, and he began to say, I genuinely believe there's not a lot of bad right around the corner. I think we probably have a short period of time, maybe a year or 2 or 5. I think there's a lot of good inbound for the United States and for the world, because we seem to have a place of, choose my adjective carefully here, we seem to be on the world stage.
And I think our brain naturally wants to go default to the negative, and we just focus there. And so if we focus there, we can get ourselves all worked up. And even in the homesteading world, I see people prepping for doomsday.
Right.
Like, are you even enjoying the process? Are you even enjoying the day-to-day, taking care of the animals, the just putting up food just for next year, next month, what have you? And so I feel that sense of fear in people.
Absolutely.
So prepared and peaceful.
Mm-hmm. They pair together very nicely.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Derek Eberly. I'm the host of the Prepared and Peaceful podcast. I'm also a small business owner and entrepreneur in southeastern Pennsylvania, a place known for Amish country, most notably. Join us today for episode 1, our very first episode, covering some wide-ranging topics, including animal husbandry, organ meats, and even parasites. My guest today is Sarah Stutzman, who runs and operates Wellfolk Revival, very close to us here in Lititz, Pennsylvania. Her and her husband, Brooke, started this years ago. But don't take my word for it. Join us, listen in today, have fun.
I really enjoy talking with people. And again, like, we both interact with a lot of homesteaders. And you see, like you were saying, people doing it and really missing the beauty of it, missing the fun that it is. And so I really appreciated your greenhouse. What's the specific?
The greenhouse. It's just, I call it the greenhouse.
Okay.
And it's a space, and it's just something that I've created. Actually, I did an in-person meeting with women, and I called it the greenhouse because I find that a greenhouse is this perfect space for seedlings to grow and thrive out of the elements. Mm-hmm. And someone's taking care of them. The gardener's taking care of them, nurturing them, weeding, the seedlings. And I think we all need that space as we're learning.
So it's a very feminine idea, a very nurturing, protective space.
Yes.
That you're looking to create, and then pass that to who is your ideal person that you are looking to find?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, there are people that are out there that are self-motivated and, going to YouTube, reading books, experimenting, and not having that fear of failure. And then there's some people that are like, I just want you to be with me and walk beside me and just get me to that next step. And once you learn skills, so in the greenhouse, you learn these skills that are basic principles that you don't need a homestead for. You don't need a farm. There's skills for the future that, like, what if one day I want to be prepared to know how to make yogurt or bake bread if I can't get it at the grocery store. And so those are the skills that I'm teaching. And so I'm looking for people that are desiring to know those skills, to have them in their back pocket, to make better choices for their family. And that, just need that extra support. And once they get it, they'll just fly, they'll soar,
right.
And they'll get to the next level and the next level. But yeah.
But to really nurture that beginning,
where,
because there are some go-getters, people who are going to, and I wonder sometimes, it's just so unique, the differences in personalities and things. And I know that I looked for a lot of validation early on from other people. And then as I grew older, it can be a phase of life thing as well, depending where you are in your journey to become an old person, I guess.
Or a cool young person.
Yeah. Well, I think I view my life as in a lot of ways, this is probably unhealthy. Like, I feel like the day that I die, I'm going to hear this like, okay, pen down, like test is over, no more. And so I have a very long view. I really appreciate being around people who can bring me a little bit more into the moment, because I am very much in danger of looking too far into the future and not appreciating right where I am.
Oh, yeah.
That is definitely, and I think an oldest child like myself might.
Yeah.
So this would actually segue really nicely. I know very little about Sarah Stutzman and what brought on with you and your husband starting Well Folk Revival.
Mm-hmm.
I know a little bit just based off of what your website said, and researching that a little bit. You guys got married in what year?
2007.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. What a time to be alive.
Yeah. We were in pure bliss. It was pure bliss.
Yeah.
Like, we just got married and starting our homestead.
And were you always local?
Yes. I grew up in the Lebanon County area. My husband grew up in Lancaster. And so, yeah, we didn't move too far. His family is from the West, and they moved in here to take care of his grandmother. And so his mom's side is from here, and his dad's side is from Idaho. And his parents just moved to Idaho. So blessings to them. And they're enjoying their life right now, building their house. And so we've always been here, though, him and I.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. And jumped right into homesteading and learning all about we went through a very similar time. We got married in 2010, so just behind you. Yeah. It took a little bit longer till children came along, because this is our oldest. Yeah. Really experienced what I think was a very similar joy for what I remember having. We had American guinea hogs. We had our first litter of piglets. It seemed like it took forever till they arrived, and it's less than 4 months. It was gestation for a hug. And the day that they were born, we hugged each other and jumped up and down in a circle. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's fun.
It is fun to see people have that joy, and especially with myself running a butcher shop, I get onto so many different farms and get to see so many different operations. Mm-hmm. And it is certainly has been a renewed interest. Would you say it's fair that the Stutzmans were ahead of the curve and then we were right behind you?
I would say so. I would say so. I mean, and I think that's where, this is why we started Well Folk Revival, is because, Brooke and I, we got married. And that next spring, we got married in October, and in spring, we were tilling a garden. We got meat birds. We got a dairy, not a dairy cow. Huh?
The gateway drug.
The gateway, I know.
Meat chickens.
We got chickens and meat chickens. And what else do we have? Oh, hogs. We were raising hogs at his parents' house, like a combined effort. Mm-hmm. We had friends that we were just raising for everyone. And then we got a Holstein bull calf that my mother-in-law would take care of. And Gracie was a baby. Oh, and we had a baby too. And so she would be taking Gracie out, feeding the bull calf on days where she, watched Gracie. And he started getting a little ornery,
chubby.
Because he wasn't a steer, he was a bull.
Yeah.
So, and he's hanging on our wall right now.
I see.
So, yeah.
The hide.
Just the
the horns.
The horns. Yeah.
Right.
What are they? Montana mounts, I think. I should know this. My husband's a taxidermist. Montana.
Oh my.
A Western. What are they called?
European.
Yeah. I call them Montana. There's European mounts. And so, yeah. But that's how we just dove right in, and we had no fear, and we had so much fun with it. There was so much joy. We made so many mistakes. Our first garden was full of weeds. We had to mow our beets down just to find them. And so, but we had so much fun. And I look back at that and I think, okay, on the really hard days, I'm like, let's go back to the beginning and let's put some joy in this. Mm-hmm. And, I think up until 2020, we were homesteading for the fun of it, for the joy of it. Right. On our homestead now that we're on, we rented our land, where we first started for 5 years, and it was Brooke's grandfather's organic farm.
Okay, so it was very good soil.
It was really good soil. It was actually sold when his grandfather passed away, and so we had the privilege to live there for a little while. And the place where we live now, Brooke said to me, he said, if anything were to happen, we have a well, we have a wood stove, we have everything we need here in case anything goes down. And I was like, yeah, right. And then 2020 happened, right? And then I think that struck that fear. Okay, we need to do this in preparation for the future, and we lost that joy. But our friends were always asking us, "What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you making now?" And so I think that just started wanting to teach people. And I'm a teacher. That's my trained education.
Okay.
And so that just naturally happened then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a very natural outworking of those two things coming together there.
Yeah.
I do believe that a lot of people's sense of, I'm not sure, sense of something was altered in 2020. And we started our butcher shop in 2019.
Okay.
Again, in the same, I'm seeing a lot of parallels.
Yeah.
Much in the same way, we were doing it for the joy of doing it for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also had a Holstein calf. That was the first one. That was a steer, though.
Okay.
His horns didn't get as big. Yeah. But he was the very first one. I remember my mom actually was the one helping me. She drove the skid loader that we used to lift it up. We didn't have the butcher truck then. And that was the very first one. And halfway through cleaning the animal, we'll say, I realized that I didn't enjoy it, but I also didn't mind it.
Okay.
And that was kind of my moment of, let's take this a little bit bigger. Let's see if we can bless other people with this. It's kind of a new thing. Like you said, before, when you take something like that and make it a business, it's very different when you're looking for income from something like that.
And then you have to kind of, when you create a business, then it's like, oh, the pressure of then having to find clients and market and all of that stuff. Did you start your mobile butchering? Did you do that right out of the gate, or did you just start butchering for people?
We did. That was my very first kill. I ran for my uncle. Sorry, and I'm going to try and make this about butcher shop. I talk about that enough.
I'm curious. Yeah, I'm curious.
So we had a very awful, beta mode. It was a trailer actually, which ended up being our butcher shop then. But it was far too heavy to pull around with a normal pickup, and I think I ran only one kill with that before I bought and built the truck, because we absolutely have to do something else. Current form of the truck that you have seen, it's been that way for several years now.
Okay. So when I tell people that I have a mobile butcher that comes out, because you've probably loaded hogs on have you loaded hogs on a truck before?
Yeah, and unloaded more commonly because of helping people drop off.
Right. And it's no fun loading an animal. And so that animal then doesn't have the
unwilling one.
Yes. But they don't have the stress hormones going through their body, and they're in their natural environment. And so it's just such a sweet little niche that you have. But I tell people that, and they think that you butcher on site. And I say, no, you do the kill and the cleaning, and then you take it back, which, that's the most important part, so that animal's in its natural environment.
Correct. Yeah. Because once it is dispatched, it ceases to experience anything. And so, you're getting away from all the cortisol and lactic acid and
that you would then be consuming as,
You would be taking that off.
I don't need any more cortisol.
Speaking about bulls, right now we're eating a Highland bull. It was all grass-fed. We bought out a herd recently. A guy was moving to Florida and needed the animals gone quickly.
Okay.
A longtime customer of ours, actually one from the very beginning. And, of course, Highland are beautiful. Right?
Oh,
and have the big sweeping horns. I knew the animal was especially, it was the herd bull, and it was very easily agitated. Okay. It was very wary. It was in charge. That's his natural job. And we ended up a lot of times shooting at about 40 yards of distance. So I'll lay down and do it. But the meat is tremendous. But otherwise, if you had loaded that animal and put him through all of that stress, the quality would be inferior. Even from a palate standpoint, you would actually be able to tell a little bit of difference in the taste. Not so on all animals. Holsteins are a little more docile. They sort of have the natural fight bred out of them on purpose.
Yeah. I've always wondered about those. I call them hippie cows. I think they're beautiful. And I always say there's just certain animals that I don't know if I could raise and then consume.
Right.
Like we raise meat rabbits. Well, the girls do. And that's their operation. They said they want to raise meat rabbits to sell to people. And then we actually tasted one when we were visiting Polyface Farm, Joel Salatin's farm in Virginia. And they were like, nope, we're going to raise them to eat. They're so good. And I was like, oh, but rabbits are so cute. And so it's just having to, that full circle. I think we've lost connection with the whole sacrifice of an animal. Like when we take an animal, we pray over an animal. When you come before that, we pray like, thank you for, being able to raise that animal. We give thanks back to it. And knowing that it'll feed our family then and continue to nourish us. So it's just that I think we've humanized animals, and it's like people ask, "Oh, how do you eat the animals that you raise?" Right. And it's just I don't know any other way. I wasn't grown up this way. Like, we went to the grocery store for meat.
Okay.
But now I'm like, I don't want to go to the grocery store for meat because I don't know how that animal was raised, how that animal was treated, and what they were fed. It's not all about just what they were fed. Mm-hmm. It's about how they were treated too. Yeah.
Especially in the final moments.
Yeah.
So, girls, they are here in the studio with us. What breed of rabbits do you guys raise? Girls, rather. Oh, yeah. So I actually had, I think, 3 does for a while. We had a little operation, and we didn't eat them. We sold them I had a buyer. I found a buyer. And he had a little custom butcher shop, but that's what we had as well. I think I had 1 Californian doe, and the rest were the New Zealand, the white with the beady red eyes. Yeah. Far less attractive than a Highland cow.
Yeah, definitely. They're still cute, but
they are,
yeah,
yes.
But
they don't have that picture appeal.
But they're different than raising chickens. Like, by the time chickens get to, butcher time, they're
you're about tired of them?
They're gross.
We're happy for Butcher Day.
Yeah, we are happy for Butcher Day. Especially Hannah. Hannah helps me with the chickens and helps me move them every day. And we just got our meat birds, and she's like, "Oh, I'm not ready for this." But
here we go again.
Yeah, here we go.
So the topic that we have come here to talk about today is actually organ meats. I have looked to Sarah as an educator in the space, myself a butcher, so it makes a very reasonable coming together. So tell us a little bit what you're seeing as themes. I see a lot of people really getting education around the value of organ meats, specifically beef. I think this is the one, and bison are the 2 that I see most predominantly. But can you kind of just give us an overview what these organs are doing in ruminants and non-ruminants, because we do save a little bit of organs from hogs as well. Okay. Sometimes. Okay. But we'll get to that probably a little bit later.
Yeah.
Because there's some things that actually I think you had brought up already for us that changed the way we operated with regard to some of the elements around hogs. So anyway, what themes are you seeing?
I always ask you, because my brother-in-law raises grass-fed but supplements with grain beef, right? Mm-hmm. And I always ask you, can I have the organs back, right? Yeah. I'm always the one that no one in the family wants the organs except some of his grandparents, right, that are asking for. So
Grandma knows how to make liver.
Grandma knows how, yeah. So, I think we've lost that in our generation because, like I said, we got away from eating the whole animal and buying meat from a butcher where we go to the grocery store and we get it.
Our culture.
Our culture, yes. We as in our culture. And we as in our culture are used to just now going to the grocery store and buying, our piece of meat in pretty packages, and offal, which is the liver, the organs, all the things that are thrown out now. It sounds awful, right?
It sounds so similar.
Yeah. Who would want to eat that? Because we've just in a generation, my grandmother, she would make sage filling, and that's what it was. It was called sage filling. Mm-hmm. And she would just put diced up liver in it. And I ate it as a little girl. And
sage is a very strong spice, probably went really well with a strong beefy flavor of liver.
So it was just like a bread filling with lots of sage and little pieces of liver, and we would eat it at like Thanksgiving and Christmas. And so, but eating liver and onions, I never really grew up eating that. Mm-hmm. And so again, I had to get used to that, but I think it's coming back. And so when we were introduced to the Weston A. Price Foundation, Weston A. Price was a dentist who studied, do you know anything about him?
I don't know. I know you have some involvement.
Yeah.
And I know that the head of the local chapter spoke at the protest for the Amos Miller case in Lancaster.
Yeah, Sally Fallon, she was there speaking at it. Well, Sally Fallon Morrell brought back all of Weston A. Price's work, or helped to bring it to light. So Weston Price was a dentist in the 30s, and he was seeing a lot of crowding of the teeth and jawline and decay. And so he's like, what is happening? It's the 30s, when you think back in the 30s, something changed. Yeah. And he found it was our diet. It was our, we were the processed food we were eating back then, flour and sugar, and and I was like, the 30s, think about now. Oh my word, if he was still around. So he studied indigenous cultures all around the world, and he found that their diets were very high in organ meats. Whether there was raw dairy in that region, it would have been raw dairy, sprouted grains. They ate the organ meat first, and they gave the organs to newlyweds,
I see.
the woman and the wife and the husband,
Yeah.
to help with fertility.
I see.
And
Because they knew it's the most nutrient
yeah.
dense.
And think about when an animal goes, like a predator, they will eat the organ meats first, right?
Absolutely.
So we started getting into organ meats by about that time when we were introduced to Weston A. Price, by probably 10 years ago, I would say. And then we became chapter leaders and, educating on the topic of real food. But it was still like, I have all this stuff in my freezer. And when we'd get to the bottom of the freezer and the meat was almost all, and I was like, I think I'm going to go get some more meat, buy more meat. And Brooke was like, no, you're not. There's still meat in there. And I was like, oh man. So I had to learn how to cook tongue and heart, and the liver we were incorporating into our meat because I didn't want to just eat liver, right? Liver and onions.
It's a little bit too strong.
Yeah. Did you grow up eating liver and onions?
No.
Okay.
Absolutely no.
Do you eat it now?
No.
Okay.
I don't. I'm an Ancestral blend cop out.
Yes. I love it. No, because I don't have to do it now because you incorporate that into the meat, and it's like, okay, my hands are off. I don't have to grind this liver up and then add it to my burger.
The prep is a lot easier for this. So Ancestral blend, for those who are not in the know, is when you take the ratio of one animal's worth of ground beef, or the trim, we call it in the butcher shop, and you put the liver, heart, and we include the tongue as well, just because we don't eat tongue separately. A lot of people in our local Berks, Lebanon, Lancaster County area in Pennsylvania, they really appreciate the tongue. Yeah. But I don't, so I put it in there. I like it from an economic standpoint because it's a little bit more yield. It's another about 20 pounds of yield. I almost brought a liver in today because I ran some kills this morning. Yeah. But it's just, it's not a pleasant.
No, and
piece.
it's like mushy and really bloody. But when you give it back though to the customer, it's always sliced real thin, already sliced. You're not dealing with this honking piece of liver.
Right, it's not one.
Yeah.
So we've actually begun to do about a 1 pound piece because there's different opinions on how thick is the perfect thickness for liver.
Okay.
And so we just ended up giving a roughly a serving size piece for a couple of people, and they can slice it nicely. But yes, that is how we typically give it back, is that each of these items, the heart, we save the heart, tongue, liver, and tail from every beef that we do. And we save the heart and tongue from the hogs and add that in with the sausage. We used to save the liver and put that in because I had a customer one time, actually the one I got my Highland bull from, they had originally requested the liver to be put in with their sausage. And so for a while that was our default until we realized the way that hogs process parasites a little bit differently than, say, a ruminant because of their eating habits. It raises some questions, and because I am the steward of other people's food, we say if there's a question, there is no question.
So people that are eating sausage don't even know that they're eating organ meat, because a lot of times sausage has organ meat in it. Yes. So if you are eating sausage, you're ahead of the game.
Yeah, depending on what the packers are putting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, if from an economic standpoint, again, if you look at the value of the pounds and pounds of these packers that are running thousands of head per day, they're doing something with that. Eating the whole organ, either cooked or raw, because there are some people that will actually, I've heard of liver sliders. Is that a thing? Like a frozen?
I mean, I eat liver pills, not sliders, but I guess.
Do you prepare them or do you buy them?
Oh, I do. I prepare them. So you send
nice.
back a perfect, thin piece of liver, and so I'll take it out of the freezer, and it has to be frozen for 14 plus days. I like to go a long time just to kill any pathogens or any lingering parasite eggs or anything like that.
Exactly.
And so I will cut that piece when it's partially frozen, just to get my knife through into 1-inch chunks.
Yeah.
And
it's
then
a little easier to cut when it's still far frozen.
So I just have these 1-inch chunks. Then I get about 30 out of a package of yours, and I put them in little silicone molds and then put that right back in the freezer. So I didn't thaw it completely, just enough to get my knife through. And then I take one of those chunks out. We just did it this morning, and I'll cut it into little tiny pill-sized pieces, and then we just throw it down with some water and
pass it out for the whole family.
Yeah, everyone. So it's a 1 inch, 1 ounce piece.
Yeah.
And they'll maybe eat 2 little tiny pills. And you even say, Gracie, my daughter's here in the studio, and she said, she'll say, I need liver. She knows when her body's craving it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting. when we first began experimenting with this, because we did not bring it to the retail right away, we wanted to test it out. I found my physiology responded to eating Ancestral blend ground beef, and I don't think about food. I'm a thin person. I love to work. I typically think about working. I don't eat enough. When we first started eating Ancestral blend, I found myself actually thinking about the meat and like where it was in the cooler, which is very different from thinking about the lunches that I used to eat. So right now, my lunch each day is a half pound of grass-fed and finished Ancestral blend. We've been getting bulls, actually. I have this theory about the stronger tribes back when we were hunter-gatherers would have been able to kill, larger male animals, and then that would have continued to increase things like testosterone levels. We'll actually, my personal beef, we put the testicles in there.
Oh, no way.
Well,
Oh, wow.
Because I would never eat them so, but then I kind of
Rocky
can like
Mountain
trick
oysters
myself.
around here. Yeah.
I can trick myself into eating it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But nothing was wasted on the animal. Like even around here growing up, pig stomach.
Oh, yeah.
Did you grow up with pig stomach?
Every Easter.
Yeah.
Grandma makes it.
And I would always, my mom would make it for my dad, but I was like, ugh, she would never make us eat it. And head cheese, like boiling the pig head. And that is such a that's such a delicacy around here. But
that's one that there are people that ask to save the heads.
Okay.
So.
I had 2 pig heads in my freezer for a year.
You're on a list somewhere.
Because we butchered
a good list.
We butchered 2 hogs. We did 2 years in a row. We butchered our hogs for the experience and for the whole full circle.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I saved the heads, and I was like, I'm going to make head cheese. And Brooke reminded me, he's like, you still have 2 heads in your freezer
that you got to use.
That we got to use.
It's like cleaning your plate as a kid.
And then his parents went to Idaho for like the summer to start building their house, and we needed freezer space, so we put them in his parents' freezer. And they came home, they're like, "What is this?" But no, we didn't do anything with it. But yeah, all hopes of doing something. So that's why we stopped butchering our pigs, and we let you do that because a lot went to waste.
I see.
But we digress here, and so back to Ancestral blend.
It's all good. It's all helpful. I also co-own and co-founded Keystone Cattle Company. It's the same ownership as a butcher shop. We just separated for legal reasons. We would love to sell people quarter, half, and whole beef and half and whole hogs because we really feel like it is the best way. You mentioned whole animal eating. Yeah. This is something that Americans are not currently doing and certainly not accustomed to. The number one question that I get when people are asking about a quarter beef, why are there so few steaks?
Yeah.
A lot of people think that an animal is mostly steaks based off of looking at a retail counter. You just see this tiny little thing of ground beef over to the side where the reality is half of the animal is going to be ground beef. And so you're looking at a very large volume on a quarter of beef. That's usually like 50 to 80 pounds, depending on the size of the animal. We've been doing some smaller black Aberdeens lately. Okay. That's what I was doing today. Actually, all three were black Aberdeen. When you look at the value of that ground beef, if you add the liver, heart, and tongue into there, you were talking about taking a little bit of liver every day. Yeah. I think the consistency of that is probably going to be quite helpful. That's where you're going to get your impact. It's very difficult to eat large amounts. We talked about the newlyweds being given the organ meats. I know that different people have said, especially a woman during pregnancy, it is very good to keep iron levels elevated. And to kind of get that trickle effect, always have it in the system.
It has to be bioavailable, meaning that if you're getting it from a source from like liver, rather than a supplement, your body's going to use it. Otherwise, it's just going to get bound up. But you also need other vitamins and minerals to transport that iron too. So if you're just taking an iron supplement without anything else, that's where liver comes in, and you have it's like nature's multivitamin.
It's the perfect form. It's what our genetics were meant for.
Yes. Yeah. It has all the B vitamins. And so sometimes if I take a liver shot in the morning on an empty stomach, I'll get that like niacin rush. And I even messaged someone else, another health coach that I know. And she's like, and I said, do you get this like high? She's like, yeah, it's like amazing. You get this like euphoric feeling and it just makes you happy.
For all of you crunchy people out there, getting a niacin rush puts you at about a level 12 crunchy, I think.
I think so.
But I really appreciate like we were saying, it is actually a very strong response that your body has to organ meat. Even in the beginning, I'm like, no, there's no way I'm thinking about this during the day and that I like actually want to eat this. But it is. And I think it's something in the day and age of propaganda and uncertainty, personal testing is becoming increasingly important, if not, what we have to go on, right?
Absolutely.
And so you can test this. This is not something that we just want you to take our word on, and we'll have some sources at the end of the video if you guys want to check out places to pick that up.
Yeah. Like you said, consistency. It's consistency. I know when I am consistent to, like consuming liver or liver products, I just feel happier. My mood is, I'm just in a better place. I feel clear-minded. I can focus. And that's because, and specifically liver has all your B vitamins, minerals, like your trace minerals. It has amino acids, which are building blocks to your muscles and cell repair, like to just natural damage that happens just from living life. And so it has everything that we need. And then heart has like CoQ10, which is like a super antioxidant. Oh, yeah. And so that's, again, rebuilds cells, helps with heart health. Like we're supposed to eat canola oil because it's heart healthy. No.
I thought the Cheerios were what I'm supposed to eat to keep my heart.
I know,
keep
right?
me from getting heart disease.
Yeah. No, they don't want us to know this. They don't want us to eat this stuff. And then tongue again has like a lot of those. You wouldn't think, but like vitamins, minerals, B vitamins.
To look at the differences between, so liver is a secreting organ. It is filtering the blood of the body. The heart and tongue are smooth muscle, but you're saying there are still a lot of different building blocks there in the way of amino acids than the actual muscle tissue.
Correct.
Because it's so different. And I can see that when we're preparing it for people, like it's obviously very different from skeletal muscle. Yeah. For the butcher is easy to see.
Well, so when you're working with it too, there's all those the valves and the visceral tissue, and a butcher like you can just put it all into ground meat and you don't have to deal with it. If this is so new to you and you're like, oh, this is grossing me out, but you want to try it, definitely do the blended ancestral blend and then you don't have to deal with it. But I think it's just a challenge too, as like a human being, like knowing that my ancestors ate this way and they did not take anything for granted. They used the entire animal. I think it's just, if we're going to consume animals, I think it's just right to consume the entire animal and learn how to prepare it, and get comfortable with it.
And it wasn't very long ago that people were doing this.
Right.
It's interesting to see, did it skip, how many generations would you say? 2?
I would say 2. I would say just 1. I mean,
our parents'
generation. I think our parents' generation, and now it's kind of coming back around. Yeah. But even so, I think like my dad would eat it, but my mom wouldn't eat it. So where it was just.
So there was a gap.
There was
in
a gap
there somewhere. So it might not have even encompassed a whole generation, but because like I said immediately, oh yeah, grandma makes liver. I think a lot of people say that. This is our way of bringing it back. One thing I wanted to do with the ancestral blend, of course, we saw that first from Force of Nature, was where I was first made aware of it. And then I just came to understand, like, it's such a good idea and it's so easy. Like once you start learning about the value of these other components of the animal, and going back to even just from an economic standpoint, I get another 20 pounds of ground beef at $7, $8, $9 a pound. That's a nice little chunk of change. And little ones especially can eat it without really knowing that it's there. It's a very easy way to get. Your girls are a little bit older and a little bit more disciplined in the ways of health and things. But for someone who is really trying, that's the person that I think about. Someone who is looking to make a difference, but needs a starting point. Needs an easy place to start. That you can often sneak it past picky eaters.
And if you don't want to just throw back raw liver,
right?
Everyone like cringes when I say that I do that, and they're like, "Oh, no, there has to be an easier way." And then there's liver pills that are like actual desiccated, freeze-dried liver that's on the market for what, $40 or $50 for a bottle that maybe will last you a month. And I was like, wow, that's pretty expensive when you can just get it in your beef. And I think the importance to that, you have the proper ratio, because you can eat too much liver, though some people will argue because you have the vitamin A, like too much vitamin A, and there's that vitamin A toxicity. But I think that there lies the same thing with the iron. Like if you're not getting it in a proper form. So if you're eating it mixed with beef, and it's that proper ratio, you have the muscle meat and then you have the organ meat, and that's a good ratio. So
sort of what nature
it
set
balance.
forth.
It's a balance.
The created ratio.
Yes. Yeah.
I know that the raw dog food people, we had looked into that a little bit because we have a butcher shop.
Yeah.
And honestly, Dogs are not my passion. Feeding people is my passion.
Yes.
And a raw-fed dog needs to have a natural ratio. And I thought, well, let's not overthink this. This is pretty clear to us and very easy to know what to do. So, yeah, we never try to, like, hide more liver in the ancestral line. We just leave it one animal to one animal.
That's good, because you'll taste it. I mean, I remember Brooke trying to use up some of our liver, and we had a little bit of beef left in our freezer, and he was going to try to use up the liver and the beef, and the ratio was we could not even eat.
Was it more like 50-50?
It was, I think it was 60-40 liver, and it was super dark red. It was very irony tasting. I tried to hide it in chili and in meatballs, and you could not hide. Yeah, we laugh about that.
Of exceeding that ratio of one animal.
Yeah.
So, what I think, it's usually a whole animal, and again, depending on the size, I want to say it's about 10% of the total. Okay. So if I have 200 pounds of trim, typically I would have about 20 pounds of heart, tongue, liver.
So I tell people, like, 1 ounce of liver, if they're going to do it themselves, 1 ounce of liver to a pound of beef. Would that be like?
So 16 ounces to a pound. So it's in, because I have the extra weight of the heart and tongue, the actual ratio of the liver is about, that's very similar.
Is it very, okay. Because I'm like, start with 1 ounce, grind up that liver, and then put it in your beef. Yep. And then you can work your way up to maybe 2 ounces and get that ratio that you like, that's palatable for you and for your children too.
And to judge how your physiology and how it feels.
Yeah.
Because it is noticeable if you're someone who is a little bit more in tune with your body.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not that hard, people. You can learn how to listen to your body.
It just takes that slow down a little bit and just listen to your body.
And you should probably drink more water.
Yeah.
As I sit here and drink my coffee.
Always. Coming back to our children, you know, the Ancestral blend is a great way to introduce it to the whole family, especially older children. We introduced organ meats to our children when they were younger. And I won't lie, there were times where I was putting the heart in the crock pot, going dry heaving and not letting them see me. And it just made it so much more natural, like it was a normal thing that, oh, we're eating heart. Like they didn't even... You girls love heart. They ask for it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and
the kids at the shop, too, my business partner's children, when they shoot a deer, it's like their prize thing. And I find that a very natural, like that's what people used to do.
Yes.
And now we're seeing a generation that is very accepting of this, or not accepting, maybe they're just paying attention to their bodies.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, yeah. But now the tongue, like that is one that I would like really try.
It's a very different type of muscle.
Very, and so we cook it in a crock pot and we make tongue tacos. You cook it to get the taste buds off, but my middle child,
sort of peels.
My middle child loves like just science stuff and all that. And so she was like, I'll peel the taste buds off. And she doesn't mind doing that. But then you just chop it up and you put it in a frying pan with some, taco seasoning and avocado oil and get it really crunchy. And it's so good. Like authentic tacos. But as far as like children, like I would say, start them young. I mean, if I could go back to what I fed my babies at the very beginning, we're told from society, rice cereal is the first thing you should feed your children. And I'm like, oh, if I could go back. That was like, grains are the last thing you should introduce to your babies. It should be pureed like liver, like pate and egg yolks.
Because it's highly digestible. It's not a lot of muscle fibers and things in there like a whole muscle.
Yeah, highly digestible, high in fat. Mama's
brain health.
Yeah, brain health.
Development.
Yes, eye health.
So you got to meet my mother.
I did.
And I actually got to meet yours too. She picked up at the shops. This is lots of fun. I find that this is where I certainly draw my passion for all of this was my mother's, and you're already passing it on to your girls. That meant so much to me. I was homeschooled for 12 grades, and you're doing that as well. Mm-hmm. But my mother's personal journey about learning about food. Sorry,
real food.
Learning about food. The number one thing she left me with was, if you're going to eat something, it should be food. And she didn't say it in so many words, but that has been my distilled down version. That's why we do the nitrate-free cured products and that sort of things. It's a step in that direction, right? Looking at practical ways, like you were saying, it's to eat a piece of liver by itself as a serving, like you would eat the same amount of ground beef. It's too much. Your physiology is now telling you the opposite. Like, okay, you've had too much. Is why people don't like it. And so to bring that back to a natural ratio seems to make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
And then sliders for people who it's another way you can make it fit your schedule.
Yeah.
Or, I have the privilege of working at one location, so I have my little frying pan I use every single day. Mm. If you were out on a job, it would be, or out, driving a vehicle, it would be difficult to have that every day.
I mean, I don't mind eating them cold. We'll make them up on a Sunday night. It's like, really? Oh, man, you did that in a little organic ketchup. I say organic, but just ketchup, Yeah. And I guess I just don't mind eating things cold. And, it's all good.
I am pretty tough when it comes to eating things, but that is one that and I think because I work with it too, right? When I worked at the chicken hatchery, I didn't eat eggs. Yeah. It's an exposure bias, I believe.
Yeah.
So this is the part that, as a butcher, a processor, kind of gives me the heebie-jeebies. I do not like to talk about parasites. Our children have been around the cattle at the farm, and so we've had ringworm and different things. But lately, our youngest, our 2-year-old, has had intestinal parasites, and that absolutely gives me the willies. I cannot. I get itch. My skin gets itchy when people start to talk about that. But you have a story. Help me learn.
I mean, it's just that story. I'll share that one in a second, but. Okay. Just being around animals, everyone has parasites. Everyone does. And if one person in your family has them, then everyone usually has them. I mean, I don't want to make you.
Oh my.
But it just, it happens. And I just know, like, full moon. Do you know about the full moon?
No.
Okay.
No, this is all new to me because I have blocked it out of my mind.
Okay. I guess I listen and I'm in tune with parasites, just being on a farm and having the animals. I've learned to take notice when parasites are a little bit more active and the signs to look for them. And so it's usually on a full moon. And I have one daughter in particular that will just, when we get baby chicks, we'll sit right in the middle of the baby chicks and play with them and, and animals carry parasites. And so, and house animals, cats in particular. And we have our society loves animals, right? Mm-hmm. Cats and the dog, they sleep in bed with us and all that. So it's not just farm animals, yes. And so one particular point in time, we had just gotten baby chicks and it was around the full moon. And just from my learning, I was like, she ran up to the house and she's like, I feel like I'm going to throw up. And she got sick. And then in the next breath, she's like, I'm hungry. Can I have ice cream? And I'm like, oh, wait a minute.
There's something more going on here.
What time of the month is it? And it was full moon. And so during the full moon is when they're more active. The eggs are hatching in your body. And so, because the moon is pulling, right? And so when you're doing a parasite cleanse, it's good to do them around the full moon to kill off any,
because that's the highest point.
That's the highest.
So they're responding to the gravity because we are mostly liquid.
Yes.
And so that is affecting us as well.
Yes.
Well, we know it affects people, right?
Yeah. But and making sure yes. And that funny story is I was at Bible study and we're talking about the full moon and how it kind of the full moon makes people crazy. And I was like, oh, that's because of parasites. And they all looked at me like I had 5 heads. Yeah. So I understand not everyone understands parasites. And it was one of those moments and I was like, oh, let me back myself out of this conversation because it's not one I want to have. But just to take notice of skin rashes and stomach and mood around the full moon.
That can be an indicator of a parasite load.
Yes, absolutely. And just making sure that you're, eliminating properly every single day, going to the bathroom, because if, you are doing a parasite cleanse and you're not releasing them, that debris can be left inside you.
Building it up. So
yeah.
And this is not to scare people from these things. It's just saying that as we want to be healthy in all ways, right? And so we want to take more notice of what's going on and be in touch with our bodies and what our bodies are telling us.
Yeah. So don't be scared. But we worm our animals, right? On a farm, you worm your animals, your dogs. But what about us? No one wants to talk about that. And a lot of illness begins with parasites and parasitic load in our body.
Because that is a stress.
It is.
A stressor on the body that can predispose you to other issues.
Correct. Yes.
Because of my very the nature of my job, I do carry a black walnut-based tincture.
Tincture.
I believe it is. And it makes my coffee taste terrible. I don't put it in my coffee, but I take some and then drink coffee.
So you do that every day?
No.
Okay.
As needed.
Okay.
If I suspect something.
Yeah.
Or periodically, like when we discovered it in our 2-year-old, then we went through it as a family again.
Yep.
Took some more.
Yep. Wormwood is another one. Wormwood, black walnut tincture. We always have those 2 in the house as well. Yeah.
One thing we found when we were first homesteading, so my oldest, who is down here out of frame, there were complications when he was born. He was actually born via C-section, and so he drank a lot of goat milk. And we had our own goat at the time. We were renting as well, and we noticed that the goat the milk was really gross.
Okay.
Tasted really bad when she needed wormed. And we also noticed that we would let her out because the pen that we had a pasture for her, but we knew she liked to go out in the yard. And of course, if you ever keep goats, they get loose by themselves. So we noticed that she would go and pick up all the walnut leaves. We had, where we were, there was lots of black walnut trees. I could count over a dozen standing in the front yard. And a lot of them were in the yard. And she would pick those up. And I believe that was, they were available. They were right there. But she did that instead of eating the grass, which I found interesting. Even the yellow, drying leaves that had fallen out of the tree. Not as potent, I think, as there's not as much of the active ingredient in that, but it was still kind of hinting towards okay, we should probably get her wormed again, and the milk would come around. It was really good.
Good. Yeah.
It was delicious.
Yeah. Cows will do the same thing. If you let, if they're grass-fed cows and you let your pastures go, they know what they need and they will eat, the weeds and the medicinal.
Out the plants that were beneficial to them in that period of time.
Yes.
And then that's where you see issues with animals that are kept in one, contained space and not rotated as heavily. You need to supplement them accordingly.
Yes. Yeah.
But anyway, for myself, I grow and process my own, and you do too.
Yes.
But if someone does not both raise and process their own animals, I think there are actually more people learning to process for themselves, because as the economy sort of rolls over here in 2024, we're seeing the cost of and I feel bad a lot of times, the prices that I have to charge compared to the past for our services. Now, obviously, it's a business. We have to stay in business, or else we can't help anybody.
Yes.
But processing is something people can do for themselves, which is how we got that was a part of both of our starts. Yeah. And certainly part of the start of Mountain Man Mobile Processing. But if someone doesn't have their own animals, what is something, can you bring some recommendations? Sources for people who are just getting into this and may not already be raising and processing their own or having a butcher do it for them. Yeah. What are some ideas and places that, obviously this is a shameless plug for Keystone Cattle Company's product shipping to 13 states on the East Coast.
I love that you ship. And there are people that ask me all the time, where can I get beef or chicken, or, there's always people looking, and I'm part of our community Facebook group, and, there's always people looking within our community. And we certainly are not in a food desert here in this part of Pennsylvania. We are super blessed with so many farms and farmers that you can drive down the road and find raw milk, multiple places.
Yeah. Drive 20 minutes and drive past 3 raw milk signs.
Yeah. And the same with farmers and local farmers that have beef. If you're looking for a place to source pork or beef, pastured beef, then definitely Keystone, right? And I would check out Weston A. Price Foundation, westonaprice.org. And you can find chapter leaders in your area. So you'll just click the Find Food tab, and you can go to your state and hook up with your chapter leader. They call them, message them, email them, and they will help you find local food sources.
So it's fairly hands-on, they're very much involved with that.
And they'll have, meetings, and you can learn about your food, and they'll have farmers out that, maybe even farm tours, depending on your chapter leader in your area. They do amazing things within the community, so to help you find food.
So you're a chapter leader as well,
Yes.
and so you would be a resource, and
Yes.
we will look at ways to get in touch with you?
Yeah, we have a resource list. To be a chapter leader, you have to have a resource list of food in your community. Okay. So I have multiple places people.
Is that on your website?
It is. Right there, Grace, shopping.
So your website is awesome, by the way. Who built this for you? Yourself?
Jean Marie from Dig Digital.
Okay.
She is a local website designer. I have had multiple websites and had website designers that were in other states, and it was just so hard to communicate. And she is amazing. Like, I actually sat down with her, and she helped me just navigate the whole thing. So very helpful. And she's just in the ag industry, so she works with farmers.
I see.
Yeah. And
Jean Marie,
Dig Digital.
Shout out to Jean. Awesome website. Great work. I built our websites, and they're not that nice.
Okay. It's a hard job. Yeah. You have to it takes a lot of time, and that's one of those things I just have to release and let someone else that is skilled do it. So, yes. So shop resources. Go ahead and click that, Grace. So all the way to the bottom. And then local resource list would be right there. And then if you click that, you don't have to click it, Grace. It just goes to a Google Doc that has, and I can add to this as needed.
That's great.
Yeah.
And this is?
So this is my resource list for Lebanon, Lancaster County.
And is it wellfolkrevival.com?
Yes, it is. Yep.
Awesome.
Wellfolkrevival.com.
Check out Sarah's list there.
Yep.
Thank you for that. So a couple others that we brought up, people that are looking for maybe something easy. So obviously Keystone can ship to, well, our shipping is limited though. And the reason we brought that on was as a hedge against further lockdowns.
Yeah.
And as much as I don't like that, I do love to have that flexibility and that ability as a processor. It's a very nice thing to have. So there are also a lot of other people that do it. I know that big one is Force of Nature Meats. They have a number of different regeneratively raised, and I actually went to their What Good Shall I Do conference last April. It was amazing. Got to meet or at least shake the hand of the founder and talk to one of their shipping department guys. He said that they do ship from, I believe, several different places across the United States. So they can actually ship to the whole U.S.
Okay, because they're centralized. They're in Texas?
So the ranch is in Texas.
Okay.
But then their distribution channels can reach the entire United States. Because obviously you can't ship, like I could not ship a box of frozen beef to California. I've had people ask me to do that. I think there are spots in California where it is difficult, but people are also very educated about their food there. If you're in California, Force of Nature, or find a local producer, there are a lot of awesome farmers in California.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm really fixated on that.
No, that's fine. I mean, Eat Nose to Tail is another one.
Oh, yes.
Brian Sanders. They are in California, I do believe, as well, and ship.
Oh, yes. There we are, nose to tail. And so that looks like bison, regeneratively raised. Those guys have it more difficult than us. Bison compared to Black Angus are not easy to work with.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine working with an actual wild animal.
Yeah.
But so good for you. We've had bison come through the shop, and it's delicious.
So good.
It's very good.
Just think of another one. Dreamers Ranch. You said you met Dreamers Ranch, Emily, and
I met them at that conference.
Yeah. They are in New Hampshire.
There we go.
And their ministry is great. They bring in children from around the area, from the city, and then even the suburbs, and they give them a purpose, they give them a mission, and they teach them about Christ, and so it's very faith-based as well.
Hey, Nick's nuts. Go sit.
So fun. Look at all those goodies.
I'm so used to him to playing around
I know.
I don't think about it.
Yeah, so the children get to help in the process of the farming and the ranching. They're hands-on. Yeah, and they have kids camps, and if you're looking for more hands-on, they're in New Hampshire. If you want to get your children involved in farming and the process
I think
as well.
This is their website here.
Yeah, and they ship as well.
But they incorporate an element of ministry with it, of
Absolutely.
outreach, and so that is a very fun combo.
Yeah.
A very fulfilling. Thank you for spending the time. How can people get in touch with you? You're offering several classes, including the greenhouse class we talked about. And that is actually going to be an extended period of time, is it right?
Yes, yes. Well, so thank you for having me. And this was fun.
Yeah,
I love chatting farming and organ meat and
the things
parasites
that we talk about anyway.
and all the things.
The things that our friends wish we wouldn't talk about sometimes.
The normal conversation around the dinner table kind of stuff. But thank you. I appreciate it. And it's a great space as well. Like, well done. I feel honored. Episode 1.
Thank you.
Episode 1.
I made it myself.
Yes, it's awesome. Well done.
That seems to be a theme. Not that I'm so resistant to help, but
the challenge.
It's hard to have people help sometimes.
That's like my husband. He does not like to ask for
like
help. I'll do it myself. But yeah, so you can find me at wellfolkrevival.com. That's my website that you just saw, or on Instagram. All my socials are, all my socials are Wellfolk Revival. And we have classes on our homestead once or twice a month, and they are seasonal. So winter is more like sourdough, lots of sourdough. And now we're getting into the spring. So cultured dairy is what I'll be teaching next, kombucha, fermenting. Today I was making yogurt for the greenhouse, like filming it.
Yeah.
So each month in the greenhouse, so what I had people asking, well, I'm not local. I can't make it to a class, because we'll have people that drive from Jersey or Delaware or Maryland, the Tri-County area. But there are people that are, in California, and they're like, I want to come to a folk school, but I'm not local. So we designed the greenhouse to be like a little folk school. And each month you learn a topic. And in April, we're doing cultured dairy. So all the things we do in person on the homestead is
virtual.
It's virtual, and I'll just take it in little video clips with, a guide and recipes. And it's so the purpose of the greenhouse was to bring in the feel of folk school, because folk school, you're gathering with people and it's community based, and you shut down the noise of social media. And because social media can be so confusing, like, well, she said this, and she said to do this, and well, I'm not going to do anything because I don't know what to do. Yes. And so the greenhouse is to quiet that noise of social media. So that's for people that aren't local. Come find us. We'd love to have you just join us wherever you are.
Check out the Wellfolk Revival website if you're interested in that class, the ongoing courses, and then of course it'll be videos that you can go. It's not live, correct? Or there will be elements of live.
It's not live.
No,
nope.
So you can actually go and rewatch if you need to.
Yeah, you can go and rewatch.
So if you get to, like, say the next spring and you forget about how you want to start your seedlings, let's say, you can go rewatch that the appropriate.
Yes.
That's huge value to be able, because it's very difficult to keep, unless you're in the business, in the industry.
Yes.
It's difficult to keep all of that. But it complements, say, like some of the older publications, the older gardening books and different things very nicely with a modern spin, and also a little bit more explanation of it, I guess.
Visual, for the visual learner. But I want to do a butchering class. I know we had one set up.
We did.
It was a hog butchering, or a hog breakdown, pretty much. And then you fell ill, and it just...
I got the cough.
Yeah. And it was already December, and those pigs needed to go. So, but it'd be fun to do another hog breakdown class. I don't know.
Well, twist my arm. Comment below if you want to see a Wellfolk Revival / Mountain Man Mobile Processing beef or pork breakdown. Maybe you can convince me to do it again. You buy a lot of Ancestral blend, and I'll have the time.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.